After buying this game in 2018, I finally beat it 7 years later in 2025. Why did it take so long? In this video I'll try to explain my journey with this game, and how it was emotional for me to just move on with it. Now, obviously I didn't play this game every day, or even every month since its release in 2018, because if that were the case, I would have obviously beaten it in under a year, but instead, my playthrough of this game was all over the place, and in this video I'll explain why. I remember beating Chapter 1 in just the first day of owning the game because, well, it's obviously the shortest chapter and kind of a glorified tutorial. Then there's Chapter 2, which feels like everybody's favorite chapter for some reason, probably because of the drunk mission with Lenny, and it's when the game truly starts to kick off, and players immediately grow a liking for Arthur Morgan. I remember spending a lot of time on this chapter, hunting animals and enjoying the beautiful nature of this game. As much as a dumb 14-year-old could. But nothing about this game made it sad or emotional for me yet, until it got spoiled. I remember scrolling through YouTube one day after owning the game for a month or two, and seeing a thumbnail that had something about YouTubers react to Arthur Morgan's death, and I was pissed. It felt like the game was ruined for me then. While it was my fault spending too much time on Chapter 2, I didn't expect the game to get spoiled and ruin it for me. Sure, it was fun, and there was a lot to love about the game. The graphics were insane for 2018 and still hold up today. The badass gunslinging, killing outlaws, world building, deep storytelling, the constant horse riding, and most importantly, taking care of your horse.
Yeah, okay, boy. There, boy. You're alright, boy.
But in 2019, I got not only the game's ending spoiled, but also Lenny and Hosea's deaths in Chapter 4 spoiled for me, which caused me to lose a lot of motivation to keep playing the game. I still had love for it though. Even if I was far from beating the game, I still had 20 hours or so of playtime, but for me, that was enough, at least for a while. In the meantime, I got into other games, like Siege, Fortnite, and GTA 5, which I might have wasted a lot of hours on, but at the time, as a teenager, these games were fun, especially with friends. And I didn't play Red Dead for an entire year. I remember picking it up again sometime during COVID to finally beat Chapter 3, but I just couldn't bring myself to keep playing it. It felt sad for some reason. Even though I didn't know the outcome of every single character, it felt like, well, I know what happens to John and Dutch from Red Dead 1, and I especially know what happens to Arthur and how he dies at the end. And the fact that there's no mention of his name in Red Dead 1 felt even more sad. It felt pointless or a waste of time playing as a character who I knew was just gonna end up dying anyways. And I know that might sound stupid, and to be honest, looking back, it kind of is stupid. But to be fair, I was still only a kid. I somehow thought that getting better at and ranking up in Rainbow Six Siege was more worth my time than arguably the best story game of all time. I didn't know better, and at that point, I fell in love with my girlfriend, got heartbroken, and went to college. And all of a sudden, another year or two passed where I didn't really care or understand the point in beating this game. Especially when my friends and YouTubers had already spoiled the ending for me, so it just didn't matter. Plus, other things in my life felt more important. I remember around this time in 2021 and 2022, where I would start up my Xbox and just sit there, staring at all of the games and apps that I have. I kept spending too much time thinking and trying to figure out which game to just relax and play, but I couldn't pick one. I would ask myself, what's the point in playing any of these games? Most of them are solo games that don't really matter, and the other online games also feel like they ultimately don't matter because what's the point? What's the point in a virtual rank system that has no purpose outside of a screen? What's the point in playing competitive video games with friends when everybody gets mad after you lose that second or third game in a row? What's the point when half of your friend group is busy at work or school anyways? What's the point in anything? What's the point in playing solo games when playing with friends or other online players builds connections and relationships? What's the point in playing competitive games when they're not even fun half the time? What's the point when those are the only games your friend group is willing to play anyways? What's the point in anything? What's the point of playing solo games when you feel alone? Why not just keep playing Siege because that's what your friends play and you can get better at it? What's the point in playing video games at all when you could just be making money or going to the gym? What's the point once you get money or get bigger muscles anyways though? What's the point in anything? There was definitely an underlying view of nihilism going on for years. I couldn't bring myself to finish this game or play any other game alone for the longest time. If I wasn't playing video games with friends, it felt essentially pointless to me for some reason. I felt alone. I was completely obsessed and flat out addicted to Rainbow Six Siege and Overwatch 2 for years. others. Because even if I played these games alone, there were at least other people in the game chat or group posts that I can join and communicate with to play the game, so I didn't feel as lonely. So every day for years, these were the only games I could really play. Sometimes when I would get really tired of these games though, I would finally build up the courage to load up Red Dead for the first time in years, just to only do 1 or 2 missions before feeling too sad to even beat it. I also forgot to mention that another reason beating this game took so long was because I did every single side mission that was possible. It was fun making friends with a photographer that you have to save from getting eaten by a bear. It was fun fishing with the lonely Civil War vet to be his friend. It was fun doing whatever the hell this mission was.
My son lives!
And it was fun being a good guy and redeeming Arthur's story. But even though I enjoyed it, I still couldn't help but feel sad. I remember from the pandemic in 2020 to winter of 2023, I was still only on chapter 4, which is just insane. I had to have played the game a total of 3 to 4 times for 1 hour at a time each for 3 whole years. Just beat the game already. Just move on. But for some reason, I couldn't. That was until Christmas of 2023. For winter break of 2023, I went back to Texas to visit my dad for the first time in years. I used to have a girlfriend, a stepmom, and siblings here, but they're all gone for one reason or another. And after being gone for 2 years, I came home to another new stepmom and new step-siblings that I had barely met or knew because my dad had gotten remarried for the 4th time in my life. So being back in Texas was definitely weird, and also sad because, I won't lie, I was still missing my ex-girlfriend at the time, and my family. They were all gone and out of the house, and that just is what it is. I had to accept the harsh reality of that and move on. And since I brought my Xbox but no PC, it was time to play a game. Red Dead. The game I had started all those years ago, but still had never finished. The game I had started freshman year of high school and had barely gotten halfway through. Still at chapter 4, as a second year in college, 5 years later. Surely this would be the time I finally make some good progress, and thankfully, I did. Over the course of the next 2 weeks, I had finally beaten chapter 4 and chapter 5, and I was moving on with the story, ironically in a similar way that I was moving on with my life. Now, obviously I'm not saying that I'm like Arthur Morgan, but the game is all about acceptance and moving on, which was something that I was personally really struggling with at the time. I couldn't help but miss the old life that I used to have when I lived in Texas. I deeply missed my family before my dad and stepmom got a divorce. I missed my friends and how they were before they changed and we grew apart. I missed the innocence of being a kid, not having to worry about the financial responsibilities and burden of working to pay for bills. I missed a lot about the past, but there's nothing you can do about it. The same way there's nothing Arthur and the game can do about civilization. Outlaws and gains were a dying breed, and Arthur and Dutch especially saw that themselves. When Arthur finds out he's gonna die soon, he redeems himself by giving John the family life that he himself had lost in the past. He goes as far as to settle the debt with the Downs family, which ironically gave him TB in the first place. There's also the hundreds of people that Arthur has killed that, sure, he doesn't outright say he regrets killing, but he wishes he lived a better life. He wishes things could have been different so he could be with Mary, but he can't change anything about his tragic past. All he can do is accept it. And he does it in a very beautiful way. He admits to a nun that he thinks he hasn't been a good man for pretty much his whole life, and he deeply regrets it. He goes as far as to even question religion as a whole in front of the nun, which was wild for the 1800s. And the nun surprisingly responds in the most beautiful and comforting way possible, in what is probably my favorite scene in all of fiction. And after watching this scene all alone in my room in Texas, I genuinely paused for a moment and just sat there going, damn. I asked myself, why didn't I play this game sooner? All these years went by when I could have played this beautiful game, but I didn't. Until I realized, this is literally the perfect possible pacing that I could have had for this game. This game and the changes that take place in the story have slowly yet subtly progressed as the changes in my life have too. I am literally Arthur Morgan. No, I'm kidding. But seriously, I felt a deep connection with this guy. Sure, I was only 19 years old and Arthur is 36, but the realistic portrayal that Arthur has of regret and acceptance is just peak. No other game has made me even close to as emotional as Red Dead 2 has. His death made me cry for the first time in over a year because of how raw and good of a character he was. Even though I already knew exactly how he was going to die, I failed to realize the possibility that his journey to death was one of the most beautiful journeys ever, which then gave me another obvious epiphany. Life is all about the journey. I know this might sound kind of obvious, and sure, many people have lived by that way and figured it out when they were a kid, but for me, most of my life I couldn't help but think about the end goal or purposes in life. As previously stated, what's the point in anything? And the answer is simple: to enjoy it. Even if we know that we are going to inevitably die ourselves, and it's possible that there's nothing but darkness on the other side, we can at least still enjoy the time that we have on this earth. Because life can be beautiful. Yes, I know life can still obviously be god-awful and have horrors beyond our own comprehension, but at the same time, beauty always exists. Good still exists upon evil, and Arthur Morgan is a perfect representation of that, considering he went from being evil to being good. And it was at that point when I had truly realized what made this game so special. It wasn't just the cool graphics and the pretty nature of being a cowboy, it was a deeply realistic story of how life is all about the journey, not the destination. We know Arthur's going to die when he gets DB. We know that his name isn't mentioned in Red Dead 1, but even then, it doesn't matter. If anything, Arthur knowing that he's going to die soon is the best thing to ever happen to him, as he is able to finally redeem himself and accept his life as he dies in peace. Even though his own best friend that had raised him for most of his life ends up betraying him, he's still able to do what he can to help out John and his family and peacefully die by the sunrise. And that gives a point. Or purpose. It shows that no matter what crazy tragic shit is going on in your life, you can still find peace and goodness in your heart to make it okay. Why did it take me 7 years to beat this game? Because of my inability to move on and accept a lot of things in life, such as Arthur's death itself, which is ironic because the best part of the game was Arthur finally accepting his death and his past mistakes. He gets redemption. And after all that, I went back home and played some more Overwatch. In all seriousness though, I technically still hadn't beaten the full game yet. There is the epilogue, which shows the story of how John gets the ranch that we see in Red Dead 1, and gets revenge against Micah for killing Arthur. But to me, once again, I couldn't bring myself to fully finish this game. In my defense though, this time I feel that it was for good reason, because I would get really sad whenever I loaded up the game as John instead of Arthur. It was brutal. It felt like I was falling in love with this fictional character even more and more the closer he got to death. So once it finally happened, it was like, damn. That's it. He's really gone. So another year and a half goes by, and it's the summer of 2025, the time I'm currently editing and uploading this video in. I finally built up the courage to beat this game once and for all. And yet again, to my surprise, even the epilogue was really beautiful, and I nearly cried at times as we finally kill Micah and get redemption. But to me, I don't think that was the true redemption of this game, because to me, the real redemption of Red Dead 2 is Arthur redeeming his past and his sins to be a good man, Arthur. A good man.